Oh, hello, YouTube. Today on the Naughty Librarian, we are doing a full review and recap of the final book in the Mummy trilogy, The Reign of Osiris by Anne Rice and Christopher Rice. And, it's the third book. That's all I really have to say. Oh, it was so disappointing. It's just kind of a waste of a finale. I know. It's like so many trilogies. Sometimes the first and the second one are so good, and then the third one is just... But that being said, a whole lot still happens in this book to wrap things up. So let's get into what actually happened in the Reign of Osiris. So this third book of the series brings in a brand new group of characters, the Russians. Now we have Russian bad guys. It's the eve of World War I, and we're in Russia. We're introduced to a few new characters, Nikolai, Anton, and Andrei. And essentially they all have these necklaces that have a magic jewel on them, and they're going to use it to protect Russia in the coming war. Like, that's their whole vibe. And in order to be able to protect Russia using their magic necklaces, they have to kill everyone that was ever close to Lawrence Stratford. You know, Julie's dad from the first book, who died immediately. So Nikolai, he dispatches Anton and Andrei to go start the hit list. Mind you, they don't know about this whole immortality thing because Lawrence didn't know about the immortality thing. They're gonna be in for a surprise when they start trying to assassinate immortals. But speaking of immortals, we're gonna cut back over to Bektatin, our ancient immortal queen. And Bektatin is about 8 to 9,000 years old. She's seen a lot of wars. This is the first, you know, modern war that she's ever experienced. She's like, guys, we're immortals. I get it. We're gonna survive this war, but like, we can't intervene in it because first of all, there's not enough of us to make a difference. And second of all, oh my God, they're all about to go insane. And then she sends out all of this as individual letters to like everybody in our immortal crew. They all get the same letter saying like, hey, don't fuck around with this war. Back in London, Julie and Ramses, they receive their letter and they're like, you know what, Bektatin? She's making some good points. Why don't we move to America? This will be a great idea. I've always wanted to see New York. We'll just go. So they get all their shit together. They're making all these plans. They have like boat tickets. They're ready to go to America. So it's their last day in England. And Julie, she really wants to go visit Lawrence's grave just to say goodbye. So they're in the cemetery and everything is normal until Ramses feels something really hard hit him in the chest and he falls over. And that's when he realizes, oh, that was a bullet. I have been shot. And before Ramses can really do anything else, another gunshot rings out, hits Julie. So now they're both down. They've both been shot. And good old Anton the Russian was there. He's the one firing the gun. And he is so pleased with himself. He's like, oh, I did such a good job of killing these guys. And he's feeling real good. That is until Julie and Ramses stand up and they're very upset for being shot. So Ramses grabs him and he's like, would you like to tell me what the actual fuck you think you're doing? And Anton is like, oh no. Like, he's just horrified. He grabs his magic jewel on his necklace and things start to get real weird. So apparently this jewel allows people to animate and control statues, but it also has to make sense for the statue. Like, if you were gonna animate a statue of the Virgin Mary, you can't turn her into like an assassin. She's gonna be the Virgin Mary. However, you know, if you're in a cemetery and there's a big statue of the Archangel Gabriel, you can bring him to life and he knows how to throw a sword around. So like, it kind of works like that in a way. But speaking of, you know, the giant statue of the Archangel Michael, well, it's alive right now and it is fighting Ramses. And like, honestly, Ramses not winning this fight. It's a giant granite statue. I get it. It's hard to win against one of those. But luckily Julie's there. She's had enough of this bullshit. So she sneaks up on Anton, grabs his necklace, rips it off his neck. And then the statue just freezes mid-fight with Ramses. Julie is holding this necklace and she turns to Ramses. She's like, the fuck is this thing? Like, what just happened here? And Ramses sees this jewel and he's like, huh, that looks really familiar back from when I was, you know, Pharaoh of Egypt. It was like a ceremonial jewel, and they were called the Eyes of Osiris back in the day. However, he's never seen the jewels do that before, so he's not 100% sure. So Julie and Ramses, they now have the magic necklace, and they go look at Anton, and they're going to ask him, like, hey, who sent you here? Why are you trying to kill us? And that's when they figure out, uh-oh, Julie's really strong now that she's an immortal, and she accidentally broke his neck when she ripped off the necklace. So, he's dead. They can't question him. So they just start going through his pockets to see if they can find anything, and they find this list, and it is the hit list of everybody who was close to Lauren. So, you know, Samir's on there, Alex is on there, Julie's uncle, like Elliot, everybody's on this list. So Julie and Ramses are understandably quite freaked out by this. So they're like, all right, let's call up Becton. Something weird is afoot here. So they call her up and they're like, Becton, you ain't gonna believe what we gotta tell you. And she's like, that is some wild stuff. Come to my castle. We should all like combine our knowledge. So Julie and Ramses, they take their suitcases they had packed for America and they go over to Cornwall. So we're gonna put a pin in that for now. Let's like move over to Elliot. Becton's letter to Elliot in particular told him like, hey, you should go make up with Alex because like it's just a fucked up situation and you need to fix it, okay? He knows all of us immortals and shit, and like I don't know if he's okay. He's your son dealing with this. And Elliot's like, yeah, you're right. Okay. So he makes plans to get on a train and go up to Scotland to reunite with Alex because that's where he's been staying. So on the train, Elliot, he starts noticing this weird guy who's following him around. Spoiler alert, it's Andre, that Russian assassin, but Elliot doesn't know this. Elliot just thinks like, who is this bearded guy following me? So Elliot starts like doing tests about this. So he like sees Andre follow him into the dining car. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna see what this guy is all up to. Like maybe I'm paranoid, I don't know. So Elliot, he like purposefully leaves like his drink and dinner sitting there and conspicuously gets up to leave, like he's gonna go to the bathroom or something and then come right back. And Elliot just kind of hides behind a corner and like peeks to see what that guy's gonna do. And guess what, everybody? Andre slips poison into Elliot's wine, and Elliot's like, oh my goodness, the nerve, the cheek, the gall, the audacity, and the gumption of this guy. How dare he? So Elliot, he comes back in the dining car. He goes to his table, grabs his wine, and then just goes sits down right at Andre's table. And he's like, oh, hey, you know, I'm not going to drink this wine. Do you want it? I'd hate for it to go to waste. And then Andre's like, no. Like he gets up to like leave right away. And Elliot grabs him by the arm to like stop him. But mind you, Andre's a trained assassin. He pulls an Uno reverse and like he grabs Elliot in a way that conceals the knife that he just buried in Elliot's gut. So Andre starts talking. He's like, hey, this isn't like personal. It's not your fault. It's just what has to happen. But he stops talking really quick when he realizes Elliot is just standing there and he's fine. He looks down, the wound in his stomach heals immediately, and he's like, oh no, I am in trouble. So he does the only thing he can do, run away. So he runs as fast as he can. So Andre, he bursts through the doors. He's like in between train cars, and he decides, I gotta get off the train right now. So he jumps, and Elliot's like, okay, well, we need to have a talk. So Elliot just keeps following this guy. He follows Andre all the way into like this little like secret garden that he finds. And at this point, Elliot is tired of following this guy. He's like, all right, for fuck's sake, can we just stop this already? Like, obviously your weapons aren't gonna work on me. Just come out and like we can talk. But instead of coming out and talking to Elliot, Andre, he hides in the bushes and he grabs his magic necklace and he uses it to bring this like giant naked statue of David to life, and it just clobbers Elliot. Elliot's not a fighter. He's a gentleman. He shakes it off and he's like, okay, you know what? I'm done. I am not fighting a statue. So he just grabs like a big ass boulder and he just throws it at the bushes where Andre is. And like, boom, bullseye. And of course, you know, he lets go of the necklace because he just got hit with a boulder. So naked David statue, tumbles over, shatters, and he's like, all right, let's go see what this guy is all about, because this was weird. So Elliot, he goes over to check on Andre. He's like, why are you doing this? What's going on here? And all Andre says before he dies was that it's about Lawrence Stratford. And Elliot's like gasp! Like, he is scooped and stunned, and he doesn't know what to do with this information. And while all that was happening, Julie and Ramses, they show up at Bechtotten's castle. They get settled in. They hear from Elliot that he's making his way there to them by car from Scotland because some crazy shit happened to him too. And also they called up Cleopatra, Alex, and Sybil, and they're all coming by boat from the Isle of Skye. And like, by the way, like, Alex and Sybil and Cleopatra are barely in this book at all, considering there were such big characters in the last book. They are in here for maybe 5 pages. But the big revelation here is that they're all in a throuple now, and I am excited for them. That's basically all you need to know about them. They do nothing for the rest of the book. So while they're waiting for everybody else to show up, Julie and Ramses, they sit down with Bechtotten. They show her the necklace with the magic jewel on it, and they tell her everything that just happened. Like, hey, it makes statues move around. So Bechtotten have them like test it out. Like, does it work on just a rock? No, it doesn't work on just like a rock. It has to be a statue, because I guess if you're gonna get hippy dippy here, there's some residual life force imparted into art from the sculptor, and this jewel allows you to like tap into that residual life force. But basically, statues have feelings, and a magic jewel lets you unleash them. Like, I got nothing, guys. And Julie's like, hey, Ramses, like, tell Bechtotten what you know about these. And he doesn't want to. He's like, nope, not gonna. And he gets really aggro, and he ends up just storming out of the room. And Julie's like, whoa. Like, I don't know why he's being like this. Ramses is dealing with some big feels where he's like, oh no, how did I not protect these jewels when I was Pharaoh? It's because I didn't believe in their power. But we're saved from his melancholy woe by Elliot arriving, and he's like, hey guys, you ain't never gonna believe what happened to me. And they're like, did a statue try to kill you? And he's like, yeah, how did you know? So they all kind of share notes. And the only new piece of information that Elliot has is that the assassin told him all those who loved Lawrence Stratford must die. And they're like, whoa. Like, wait a minute. Whoa. So soon enough after Elliot's arrival, the rest of the gang all show up. We also meet more of Bechtotten's like immortal warriors. We meet this new guy. His name is Osiris. And he was like the commander of her navy when she was queen, 8,000 years ago. And now here he is to this day, and he's like loyal to her. And he's kind of like, I would say, a privateer. Like, I don't think he's a pirate because he's too honorable, but like, he's got like piratey vibes, and I'm into it. But anyway, he was the one who went to go get Alex and Sybil and Cleopatra and bring them here. So now that everyone's settled in, it's time for everybody to, have big team immortal. So they all gather so they can like compare notes and figure out what's going on. And they get Ramses finally to tell him the whole story about what the Eyes of Osiris are. And then we go into this whole big backstory from his past in like TLDR. Back when Ramses was pharaoh, these priests, they took him to a Colossus statue of Osiris. And they told him like, hey, one day like lightning carved it out of like a mountain, and then we were like transporting it, and then they dropped it and it crashed, and the eyes broke into like 5 pieces. And the priests all picked up the pieces, and when they held them, the statue woke up and was talking to them, and he's like, hey, I'm Osiris, what's up? And then cut to now, they bring Ramses to this temple. And they do this ceremony, they give him something to drink. Ramses thinks he's drugged, but he's not. They basically bring the Colossus to life, but this isn't like a normal statue that just moves around. Like, this is a talking entity in a statue. And like, he got into Ramses' head, and like Ramses could hear the voice of Osiris and like feel him breathing. Like, he was in the presence of like a god. And everyone is taken aback by this because, yeah, they're all immortal and like people have been resurrected from the dead and all of that, but they haven't had to deal with literal gods before. So they're like, whoa, this is new. And Bektaten's been around for a while, and she's like, I have never met a god. What is happening? But now that they have the backstory and they have 2 necklaces, they have 2 of the Eyes of Osiris, so they kind of put the facts together. So first of all, they know that the rest of the stones are likely in Russia because both the assassins were Russian. Secondly, they know that the people who have the stones realize their power and they're able to use them, and that's all great, but what's their end goal? And like, let's be real, humans, we do one of 2 things when we invent something. We either figure out how to turn it into a weapon, or we figure out how to fuck it. And I don't think they're gonna fuck their necklaces. So they're like, oh, there's a war coming. They're probably gonna use this as a weapon. The only thing they can't figure out for the life of them is like, how does Lawrence play into the Russians, okay? Like, he's never had any dealings with Russians as far as Julie knows. Really, there's only one person who would know for sure. That's Lawrence himself. So Julie's like, we're gonna have to bring Lawrence back from the dead. And this isn't an easy decision to make, okay? Bringing someone back from the dead doesn't go well. But luckily, they have Cleopatra there who can actually tell them what it was really like being resurrected. And bottom line, it's hell. The only good news that Cleopatra has for them is that Lawrence hasn't been dead as long as she was. She was dead for like a couple thousand years. He's been dead for like a few months. And also, when he wakes up, he's gonna be surrounded by loved ones. So like, maybe he'll have a better go of things than she did. Because Ramses really fucked that one up. So the decision really comes down to Bektaten because like, she's like Queen Bee and she's like, hey, we're not bringing people back from the dead. This is like her one big rule. She's like, listen, Julie, it's your dad and it's the only way we're going to get the answers we need. So like, I get it. We need to do it. And I'm not going to tell you not to do it. But like, it's a big fucking deal if you're going to do this. So she gives them several vials of elixirs, you know, several of like the immortality one, and then also some of those death potions that she makes. Because if Lauren doesn't come back right, they need to be the ones to destroy him immediately. So cut back to London. Ramses, Julie, Elliot, and Osiron, they all arrive, and Ramses and Osiron, they go to the cemetery to go dig up Lawrence's body while Julie and Elliot, like, they get the house ready for him. So Ramses, he shows back up at the house. He has, you know, Lawrence's body. Ramses, he starts handing out vials of elixir, and they're like, all right, let's all pour it on him at once. So they start pouring it all over his limbs and his chest and his arms, and like, Ramses is pouring it into his mouth, and the elixir starts working its magic, and Lawrence wakes up, and it is as rough as Cleopatra said it was going to be. And also, he is so disoriented and confused because he doesn't believe this is real. But after his like big freak out is over, Julie calms him down enough and like helps him get bathed and dressed in some clean clothes, and they go rejoin the group. Lawrence, you know, he's just sitting there really confused and suspicious of everyone because he's like, who are you people? I barely recognize that one, and like, not that much. And Julie starts giving him like Lawrence's journals. She's like, hey, you should read these. These are your journals. It'll help like put things together. He can still remember how to read apparently, and he starts reading them, and Julie's like telling him the abridged version of everything that's happened so far, you know, even introducing, you know, the Ramses II, who's also like her fiance, and her father's like, oh my God. Like, that is the coolest person Lawrence has ever met in his life. But once Lawrence settles back down after his fanboy moment, Julie starts telling him about all the recent attacks that have happened. and like the eyes of Osiris. And she's like, hey, what do you know about Russia? Like finally just gets down to the whole point of why they resurrected him. And Lawrence just says one name, Dmitry Vasilev. So quick flashback, years ago on a previous expedition to Egypt, Lawrence just kind of accidentally met Dmitry, who's like basically like a Russian oligarch. And you know, Lawrence is a fun guy and they kind of sit down, they have too much vodka, you know, they kind of become friends with each other and they're geeking out about like Egyptian antiquities. So Dmitry's like, hey, you want to see something cool? And he pulls out this tablet and it talks about the eye of Osiris in it. And he's telling like Lawrence about it. He's like, look at this. And Lawrence is like, I hate to be the one who tells you this, but like, you completely mistranslated this whole thing. and Dimitri's like, the fuck you talking about? He read this tablet and he thinks that, you know, if he can control the eye, it will allow him to control a great weapon. But Lawrence is like, actually, it's the complete reverse of that. You can have the eye, but it will control you. It just shatters all of Dimitri's dreams, and he and Lawrence part ways. That one meeting is the whole reason why all of these people related to Lawrence need to die. Just one drunken meeting. It's silly. So Lawrence finishes his, you know, tale of Dimitri, and he starts like talking to the rest of the people in the room, but he keeps referring to himself in third person as if Lawrence is a different person than him. And Julie keeps calling him father, and he's like, bitch, I ain't your dad. I don't know who your dad is. I'm not him. I don't know Lawrence. Which is really hurtful to both Julie and Elliot because, you know, they love him so much and they were hoping Lawrence would come back and recognize them, and like, they ain't getting that reality. Both Julie and Elliot far too close to Lawrence. They're just hurting his brain more, so they're like, Ramses, you go talk to him, okay? He's fanboyed over you. He'll probably listen. Ramses like, all right. So he takes Lawrence and he's like, bro, like, are you okay? And Lawrence is living like his goth kid fantasy right now. He just tells Ramses, I want to go back to the dark and the presence within. Like, that's all he talks about, this presence. And he talks about it in the same way Ramses remembers. It was like when he encountered Osiris. So like likely good old Lawrence had also met Osiris whilst he was dead, which, you know, they're gonna have to discuss that at some point. But right now, Ramses has to be the one to tell him, like, hey, bro, so we made you immortal, so you can't go back there, but we can lock you in the dark until you kind of fall asleep. And Lawrence is like, fine, just put me back in my coffin so I can sleep. So Ramses is like, okay, oh no. So he has to go back to Julie and Elliot and be like, hey, so, our talk didn't go well. And he tells him, you know, Lawrence wants to go back to the dark. And ultimately, he's like, Julie is your father. What do you want to do? So Julie goes downstairs and she tries, like, you know, one more Hail Mary play here to try to get, like, snap Lawrence out of his delusion that he's not Lawrence anymore. And she starts talking a bunch of shit about Lawrence and stuff. And she basically tells him to go fuck himself because her father's dead. And Julie comes to the decision that fine, give him what he wants. If he wants to go back to the dark, fine. I'm not dealing with this shit. So Elliot tells her, hey, you and Ramses should go to Russia and deal with this Dimitri person. I will stay with Lawrence and like figure this out with him. Ramses and Julie, they leave. Elliot and Lawrence are now alone with each other. Mind you, they are ex-boyfriends too. So there's like a lot of history here. And Lawrence is just sitting there really quiet and confused because like deep down, like he knows who he is and he knows who Julie is and he knows who Elliot is, but he just can't like reconcile his new reality because he was used to being dead and now he's alive again and it's fucked his brain up. So Elliot takes a different approach with Lawrence. He's like, listen, I'm not gonna push you to be Lawrence, the man that I knew, but you are still in Lawrence's body, and I knew that too. And then they proceed to get intimate with each other, which maybe that's all Lawrence needed, really. I don't know. He just needed some loving. Anyway, we're gonna just like put a pin in that. So Julie and Ramses, they're off to Russia. Let's get some backstory here on Dmitri. So Dmitri lives on this big estate in Russia, and he lives there with his ward named Anya. And Anya basically used to work at one of Dmitri's museums. And then one day she was the one who found the magic stone on the necklace, and she held it, and she didn't know what she was doing. But this statue of Anubis comes to life, and she's like, "Wah!" So she loses her mind. She's hysterical because statues are moving. Like, I get it, girl. And like, she tries to tell people about what she saw, and like, no one believes her. Her parents think she's just completely insane, and they kick her out. And what did you know? Dmitri just happened to be there when Anya got kicked out of her parents' house. And he's like, "Oh, don't worry. I'll take care of you. Here, we'll go to the museum, and I'll go in, and I'll see if like the statues move." Dmitri goes into the museum. He tries the stone. Statues start moving around. He's like, "Oh, this is magical." But he can't let Anya know she's right. So he just tells Anya, "Hey, none of the statues move for me. So like, I think you might have been hallucinating." He just gaslights this poor girl into thinking she's completely insane. And Dmitri, you know, of course, he's like this benevolent man who's there to save her. And he's like, "Don't worry, I'll bring you back to my mansion to protect you." And even back at Dmitri's house, like, he's still kind of terrorizing Anya, because he will occasionally make these little porcelain dolls he's given her get up and walk around, and she thinks she's the only one who can see them. And he keeps doing this for mainly two reasons. One, it's so she won't leave and tell people about the stones. And two, it's because Dmitri is having sex with her. Anya is completely obsessed with Dmitri. She like wants to marry him. She's like, "I'll be a good wife to you. You're the only person like I trust," which is, oh my God, poor girl. And Dmitri's like, no. I'm never gonna marry you, basically. He just wants to keep her as a slam piece, which is, oh my God, this guy, fuck this guy. Like, we know he's gonna get killed in a gruesome way, and we're all fine with it at this point, because fuck Dmitri. So back at the beginning of the book, we met this guy, Nikolai. Well, Nikolai is Dmitri's hothead son, and he's going off, and he's just like, "Hey, war is here. Like, the Germans, they're right there. We should use the Colossus as a weapon in the war, and we should join forces with the Kaiser of Germany. And that way we can, like, you know, have a military coup and, like, get rid of the current leadership in Russia and reestablish the monarchy and make it like how Russia used to be, you know, make Russia great again." One of those people. Oh my God. But Dmitri keeps telling him, "No, we're not doing that, because I don't know what's gonna happen with the Colossus. Like, the tablet says, like, I would be a slave to the Colossus. Like, I don't want to risk it." Finally, we're hitting the boiling point between Nikolai and Dmitri. And Nikolai's like, "I am tired of this argument. If you're not gonna wake up the Colossus, I'll go wake up the Colossus my goddamn self." Since Nikolai cannot be reasoned with, Dmitri does the only thing he can do, which is that he animates a big statue of a warhorse, and he uses this big giant warhorse to basically stomp his son to death. And in the process of, you know, stomping on him, they also crush the necklace that Nikolai's wearing, so it also destroys one of the eyes of Osiris. So now there's only 4 left. So after Nikolai's death, Dmitri gets real sad and drunk all the time because his son is dead. Mind you, he killed his son, but whatever. This leaves Anya all by herself. So she just kind of wanders around the estate all the time. And then one day she's just sitting on a bench and she sees a strange woman in the trees. And a strange woman just so happens to be Julie Stratford, and she's there with Ramses and Osiris. So they see Anya sitting there, and she's like, hey girl, you need to come with us. However, Anya is so like beat down mentally that she just kind of willingly goes with them. She just assumes, okay, Dimitri's finally had enough with me and he called the people from the asylum to come take me away. That's what's happening right now. They take Anya back to like their boat and they hear her whole story about what Dimitri has done to her. And Julie is incandescently enraged by this. And she's like, oh, this motherfucker wants to do that? No, 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 no. Give me a fucking necklace. And she's like, Anya, I want you to hold this. So Anya takes the jewel. And there's like this little like dragonfly hairpin sitting on the desk. And Julie's like, Anya, I want you to imagine the dragonfly is alive and it's flying around. And wouldn't you know, little dragonfly pin starts flying around the room and it's all cute and stuff. And Julie's also like reacting to the dragonfly so other people can see this. It's not just her hallucinating. So Julie has to be the one who tells her, you were never hallucinating. Like, those things were actually happening. And Anya loses her shit. And she's not even sad. It's not sorrow that she's feeling. It is pure rage. Because essentially Dimitri ruined her life, gaslit her into thinking she was insane, and then kept her as a sex slave. She is having her whole world destroyed again. And Julie feels bad for this poor girl. So she's just like comforting her and stuff. And Anya finally calms down and she's like, oh, y'all want a piece of Dimitri? Get me some paper. I will draw you a complete map of the estate, and I will show you where all the guards are stationed, how many servants there are. I will tell you where Dimitri likes to hang out, because when you go in there to do whatever it is you need to do to Dimitri, I don't want y'all to be surprised. I'm gonna clear the fucking way for you. Fuck yeah, Anya. Yes, she is so cool all of a sudden. Poor thing, but she's like, revenge. So here's the plan. Julie, Ramses, and Oseron, they're gonna sneak into the estate and they're gonna use one of Bechtotten's concoctions that allows you to like mind control people. They're gonna use that on all the servants and the guards, so you know they're out of the way. And from there, since there's no one around, we'll be able to just go look for the Colossus in this house and like, I don't know, take it or stop it. They don't really know what they're going to do to the Colossus yet, but they're going to look for it. So they put the plan into action and things are going really well. It's actually really easy to mind control all these guards and servants. Like, they just get it all out of the way. They've collected them. They bring them all over the chapel. They're all sitting there very docilely. But Ramses, he's just getting real impulsive here. And he's like, we need to go after Dimitri. And they're like, bro, let's go after the Colossus. We'll deal with Dimitri later. But mind you, Ramses is a king and he doesn't understand actions have consequences. So he's like, bye. And he takes off when they're not looking. And Ramses catches up with Dimitri in Anya's room, of all places. He's just kind of sitting there being a sad sack when he notices there's a piece of paper on the bed. And it's the exact sheet of paper he wrote all the names on for the assassins. And he's like, huh, that's weird. So Dimitri turns around and he sees Ramses is standing there. And he's like, who the hell are you? Are you one of Nikolai's friends? Is that why this is here? And Ramses is like, nope. I'm Reginald Ramsay on your list. Like, why are you trying to have me killed? And this is the whole part of the book where, you know, the hero and the villain have their long talk with each other. And the villain's like, I misunderstood. And the hero has a lot of snark. It's a whole thing. And now that Dimitri's really pissed off, he starts getting into, like, explaining his whole evil plan, straight up supervillain style. And he's saying, like, oh, we're gonna have a military coup of the Russian government, and we're gonna use all of these magic stones to create a statue army and stuff. And Ramses is just like, oh my god, you listen to yourself talk? You were so full of shit. Like, bro, I am thousands of years old. I used to be a pharaoh of Egypt, bitch. Like, you think I have time for your human nonsense? And that's when Dimitri realizes, oh, Ramses, you're here for the Colossus, aren't you? Because you were a pharaoh of Egypt, so you must have gone through the ceremony that was on that tablet that Lawrence translated. And Dimitri's like, ooh, you fucked up now. Because, like, the only thing holding me back from using the Colossus was the fear of becoming enslaved to it. But look at you, Ramses, Pharaoh of Egypt. You went through this ceremony, and guess what? You're not enslaved to the Colossus. So, like, I really got nothing to worry about, do I? So Dimitri grabs his magic necklace. He starts calling out to the Colossus of Osiris. And the whole family crypt on the estate starts, like, exploding. Like, the floor is just glowing. And, like, boom, like this humongous hand just shoots out of the floor, and the Colossus like drags itself out from underneath the crypt and like, you know, puts his pieces back together and just starts walking over to the main house. And Ramses is like, oh my God, Dimitri, you need to fucking stop. Like, bro, you don't know what you're messing with. This isn't just a statue you can control. This is a literal god. But Dimitri's like, oh, I can control a statue. Like, don't you worry. And that is right up until the statue isn't obeying Dimitri anymore. And in fact, it rips the roof of his house off to get to them. And instead of speaking to Dimitri, Osiris just bats him out a window. So there goes Dimitri. And however, it doesn't kill him. He manages to survive the fall. However, he is very injured and he needs to crawl away as fast as he can because an enormous bronze statue of a warrior is coming at him. And he's like, oh no, oh no. So he just crawls away into like a little pond. He gets in the water and he tries to like grab for his necklace to try to, you know, wrest control of the statue away. And that's when he realizes, oh, my necklace fell off in the fall. I don't have it. And guess who is standing on the bank of the pond holding Dimitri's necklace? Oh, none other than Anya. And Anya doesn't want to hear anything that Dimitri has to say, so she just uses her bronze statue friend to just push his head underwater. She wanted revenge, and hot damn did she get some revenge. Oh, it's so dark and cold. Meanwhile, Osiris, Ramses, they're now looking at each other, and Osiris is like, oh man, is that you, Ramses? Hey, bro, long time no talk. And Ramses is like, no. I didn't summon you here. It was that other guy. Like, I will help you hide your statue body away since the Russians kidnapped you. But like, no, we're not doing this. And Osiris is like, whoa, like, I thought we were cool. And like, I just got here and you already want to get rid of me? Like, that is really not cool, bro. You know what? I'm taking you to the underworld. And then Osiris like just yanks the soul out of Ramses' body. And then all of these like weird golden tendrils are coming out and like wrapping up Ramses' body. And Ramses' body is starting to fade away because it's literally turning into dust. And the last thing that Ramses hears before he gets fully sucked away to the underworld is Julie just screaming. And really, there's nothing Julie can do to stop this from happening. She just has to see like Ramses just turn into dust and then the statue is gone. It's like they have faded from this plane of existence and she is devastated by this. But Julie, she's like, nope. Wipes away her tear. She goes and grabs Osiris and she's like, let's go question some motherfuckers about what's going on here. So they go up to the guards, they start questioning them, and one of the guards just happened to be Dimitri's brother. And he knows all about his brother's plans and like the hit lists and everything, but he didn't really know what the Colossus would actually do because he's never awakened it before. He doesn't have any more information than what they already had. And since he's really not going to be any help in figuring out where Osiris went with Ramses, she has no use for him, so breaks his neck. All these immortals are just neck snappers all the time. And Julie and Osiris and his men can't stay in Russia forever, and plus they don't have any leads. Osiris's men collect all of the dust that was left behind from Ramses, and they put it in all these jars, and they take it back with them on the boat to England. And also, P.S., if you're wondering what happened to Anya, like, apparently, like, she and Osiris kind of become a thing. And I was like, yeah, Anya, way to step up. Like, way better dude for you, okay? So anyway, this is a little side note. So let's cut back to the underworld. What's going on with Ramses right now? So from how the underworld is described, it sounds like a Tim Burton acid trip. Basically, it's just like all generically kind of vaguely spooky ooky shapes and also psychedelic at the same time. And Osiris takes Ramses and he just shoves him in this big pit full of like people's memories. And Ramses is just being bombarded with all these memories and stuff. And he's like, what the fuck is happening? And like, you know, eventually Osiris just lets him up because whatever he was trying to do wasn't working. Essentially, what this pit is is all of the souls that come in, they like discard all of their memories before they start moving back into like the soul current to go be reborn. The memory pit is really more of like a cereal bowl, because Osiris nom-nom-noms on all those discarded memories. That's what he eats. And he's like, all souls want to be reincarnated. They drop off their memories, I eat them, they get reincarnated. That is how things work. And Ramses looks like an extra tasty little morsel because like he is thousands of years old. He has so many memories, but his soul and memories aren't separating from each other like normal souls because he's immortal. So now his soul is also immortal. And Osiris can't figure out what the fuck is going on here because he's like, there's a way of things. Souls, they get reborn, and then here you are, Ramses, you're just standing there being a guy. Like, what the fuck? So Osiris just kind of like, I don't know, like freezes Ramses, and he's like, bro, you're just gonna stay here until I figure out what the fuck is going on, because this is weird. Meanwhile, back in our world, Julie, she goes back to Bekhtaten's castle in Cornwall, and she and Oseron fill her in on everything that happened, including, you know, Ramses being sucked into the underworld. And also, guess who's at Bekhtaten's castle? Julie's father, Lawrence. He decided he didn't want to go back to the dark. He decided he's gonna stay. I guess, you know, Elliot really showed him a good time. And then just time goes by with everybody being at Bekhtaten's castle, and Bekhtaten and Lawrence and Elliot, they all work in her laboratory all the time, and they're trying to figure out if there's a way to like bring Ramses back somehow. And the only thing they have managed to discover is that the dust that was Ramses' body, it cannot be changed and or destroyed. So essentially they just have like a bunch of buckets full of immortal dust, and they can't fix it. And right when Bekhtaten is finally ready to admit defeat, weird shit starts happening at this castle. Like, this fog rolls in, and it's full of these like golden tendrils, and it just comes into the castle, and there's this really loud rhythmic sound that everybody hears, kind of like a heartbeat. And then they realize that it's all coming from Bekhtaten's laboratory. So they're like, oh my gosh, they all run there. And there's like a supernova bright light in the room when they open the door. And when it dims, they see Ramses on the table where all of his dust was. So apparently the dust finally reconfigured itself into a human body. And he wakes up and he sees Julie, and he's like, Julie, and she's like, Ramses! And she like runs to him because, you know, they have this epic love story. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're here. I thought you were dead. And then she finally looks at him in the face, and she sees that his eyes are no longer immortal blue. They are back to his original mortal brown. He came back from the underworld as a mortal human being. So they all gather around, and Ramses recounts his whole story about what happened to him in the underworld. And essentially what had happened was that Osiris couldn't use his immortal soul for anything. So he sent Ramses back to become a mortal human again, so that he would die eventually, and then his soul would work normal. This is Osiris's like a big plan to fix this, okay? He's basically kind of just like buying Ramses' soul on credit. And then Bekhtaten gets to have her full like, I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane moment, because she gets so angry with all of this. She's like, man, fuck Osiris. She takes all of the eyes of Osiris, she puts them on the table, and then she just crushes them all into dust. She's like, fuck that guy. That guy is creepy, and he's weird, and he eats memories. Fuck him. He doesn't get to have your soul, Ramses. And she's like, here, take this elixir. Go be an immortal again. Fuck that guy. And everyone's just like, whoa, Bekhtaten, all right, we'll do whatever you say. I'll take the elixir. So Ramses, he takes it. And then the next time he opens his eyes, they are back to immortal blue again, and everybody is happy. The end. That is the end of the book. So yeah, a whole lot of stuff happened in Reign of Osiris, and I gotta admit here, it's very mediocre in the end. Like, the first two books were so action-packed and full of like lots of like big feels, like all these character development moments, and all of this like compelling villains and stuff. And then this time we just have generic evil Russian guy. And like his whole thing comes to nothing. There's no fruition to it. None of it made sense. It's just like, wow, this was just kind of a disappointing ending to the series. Maybe it's just me. I mean, it was certainly action-packed. It had that going for it, but like, it was just kind of unpleasant to read, if I'm being honest. Let me know in the comments down below, what third book of a trilogy really dropped the ball for you? Like, the first 2 books are great. The third book, just dropped the ball. What is it? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. If you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And if you want cool exclusive content, including early access to videos or a book club, you can consider becoming a channel member or a patron. Links for that are in the description down below. And on that note, I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.